Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and I am back with another marker pop video. And today I'm going to be using some Neat and Tangled sets. I'm going to be using Halloween Scene and Graveyard Shift, and I'm going to do some ink smooshing. So before we get to the ink smooshing portion of it, I'm going to stamp out my scene. I'm going to do a little bit of masking. Now the house that's included in that Halloween Scene set has a completely solid roof, but I wanted something with a little bit more interest. So I'm using it's called Falling Star from W+9, and it's a waterproof ink. It's a super, super light gray. So I'm going to stamp that first, and then I pre-cut some masks from the house so that I could mask the roof and stamp the rest of the house in the black outline that I wanted to have. Then after I'm done stamping, I can go ahead and go in with a Copic multi-liner or any sort of Copic friendly waterproof pen and just outline that roof, and that way it looks like it's all an outline image instead of that roof being solid. So once I can get my mask up there, for some reason it was really sticking on me, you can see that it looks like there is no roof, but if you look real closely, it is light gray, and I'm just going to go ahead and outline that with my journaling pen, and then I can kind of work with it and make it a little bit more interesting versus just having a solid image. And I don't know if you guys know, but Marker Papa recently started carrying Neat and Tangled, so while these sets are older, they are new to our shop. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay some masks down. A lot of the images, most of them are from Halloween Scene, minus the sentiment and then the little headstone. So I'm just trying to figure out what my placement's going to be here. I finally settled on something, and I want my moon to be, I want it to have a cloud in front of it, and I want it to have a cloud behind it. So when you're masking a scene, you want to stamp whatever you want in the foreground first, mask it, and then stamp behind it. And here I just decided it needed one more little bat just to make it something. I'm going to be using some Liquid Frisket by Grumbacher to do my masking for the watercolor portion of it. And I have a paintbrush that's dedicated to this. You just go ahead and lay it down in a fairly thin layer, and it will resist any watercoloring that you put over it. Once it's dry, make sure you wait until it's completely dry. Yeah, so it's just a fun way to have a different kind of background. And the fence I just left as if it was like a metal, what's the word that I want? I can't even think of what it's called, just like a metal fence. So chain link, that's what I wanted, like how you can see through a chain link fence. And normally when I do this ink smooshing, I do one color at a time. I thought it would be interesting to try and see what it would look like to do 3 colors. So I'm using Black Salty Ocean and Chip Sapphire. This was just kind of an experiment for me. There I'm checking to see if it's all dry and ready to go. So what I learned was, I don't know if it was using 3 colors or if it was just the amount of water that I put down, but it was way too much water for me. So with this technique, you want to just have, I'm just using an old piece of packaging, acetate, something that your ink will cling to, and then you can have a ton of control in where you put your color down. So like I said, this to me was just too much, it was just too much water. And so I'm just playing around, seeing what kind of look I can get. Yeah, if I wanted this kind of look, I would just use a paintbrush. One of the things that I love about the ink smooshing is how much control you have and what I guess a texturized look that you get from it being drier. So I keep toying around with it, and eventually I just decide I'm going to go ahead and dry it because it's just too much moisture. But that's part of the fun part of these techniques. So here I want a little bit more light blue, and I realize also I'm doing 2 sprays of water, and that's too much water as well. So again, just have fun with it. Figure out what's going to work for you. Maybe this is a look that you like, where it's all, a softer look. Not what I was going for. So that's okay, though. You know, all of it, fortunately, is you just keep working with it to get what you want. So here I've dried it down. I'm going to clean off my acetate. So I'm just picking up that light blue, and then we're going to go back in with that. Here, this is much more what I'm looking for. See how I'm getting much, what's the word I want? I'm getting fewer puddles. I'm getting fewer puddles, which is what I wanted. And then I'm just doing several colors. This is going to be Chip Sapphire again. I'm going to go in and do that. And then when you pick up the acetate, you'll see me pull up both sides at the same time. If you try to just pick it up with just one end, you get a fairly, like how I did there. See, I had a straight line. And it's because the ink, whatever the last place it was to touch, it will cling to it in that shape. So if you pick it up and the last thing that is to touch it is just one solid line on the paper, that's what you're going to get. I didn't want that. So here I'm using, and I forgot to show you, my bad. I'm using Dusty Concord to add in a little bit of purple. I knew I wanted to make my house purple, so I wanted to have a little bit of purple in the background as well. And then I'm just smushing it on there. I mean, there really isn't any rhyme or reason. And here again with the purple, I made the mistake of adding too much water, and I totally blew out the background. So I'm going to dry it again, gonna dry it up and try it again. It's all, you know, for me, just playing around and having fun with it. I'm just gonna do a few dots of purple, and then the last color I'm gonna go in with is going to be Seedless Preserves. Excuse me. And this is a super bright purple. I knew I wanted my house to be super bright, so I did want a few spots of that super bright purple in there. Now you'll see after all is said and done, I didn't apply the mask, the liquid frisket on the house as well as I could have. And so I got a few spots on the roof, but again, totally fixable. The wonderful thing about this kind of technique is if you use just the edge, like here I'm being very controlled about where my color goes, you can control where it goes on your paper. So it was easy to build a background scene that was, you know, that watercolor look, and it's a little messy, and it's a Halloween card. So, you know, that's totally cool. It doesn't need to be perfect. But I used mowed lawn and then peeled paint and a little bit of forest moss, and I could keep it totally controlled because I only picked it up on the edge of that acetate. So to remove the mask, you just rub it away with your finger or a kneading eraser, and there you can see on that roof the areas that I didn't mask. We're going to fix it. It'll be all right. I'm taking BB23 and just filling in any areas that I didn't get completely masked when I was doing it. And then I'm going to go in with my Copics. I'm using Canson Aquarelle watercolor paper, and I haven't had any issue with my Copics on this paper. So I don't know how other people feel about coloring on watercolor paper, but mine, I mean, this works for me just fine. So I'm using the moon as my light source. So as I am adding in my shading, I'm trying to, the parts that are facing them, keep him lighter, and then on his right wing, his body would be blocking the part of his wing that's closest to his body, but the tip of his other one would still be getting light. So that's how I'm doing my shading, and I just drew in little triangles. Bats have veins or tendons or whatever on their wings that make part of it appear to be concave. For this bat, I'm doing my shading so that it's on top, and his head would cast a shadow onto his body, but the top of his ears, his head, and his wings would all be lighter because the moon is above him. So yeah, just using some really simple cool grays to do that. There's a lot of cool grays on this card, but it's a Halloween scene, so you got to expect a lot of black, I guess. And then from here, I'm going to use just a C1. It's hard to see in the video. I think you can see it better in the actual card in the finished picture. But I'm just adding just a little bit of shading to those clouds so that they don't look totally flat. I'm using some yellows for the moon, and I just went around the edges. I wanted to leave my highlight in the center. So I started with my lightest, worked into my darkest, and then in reverse. That's how I always color. That's what I feel like gives me the best blend. And then I'm going to use those same yellows to turn some lights on in our little spooky house there. Back to the grays again, and the roof that's furthest away from the moon would be darkest. So I'm adding in some shading, and here, because we put all that color in the background, you almost can't even tell that that roof already has color on it, because remember, we stamped it in the light gray. So now I'm just going to go in and add just little flicks of color, a little bit of shading to make it look like a rickety haunted house. And that's also going to help me cover up those unintentional colors that got added because my masking was poor. So just using long, flicking motions, the strokes to get it all blended in, and working lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. And then I will take the C1 and go over pretty much everything. From here, like I said, I knew I wanted my house to be a bright purple, so I'm going in with a lot of the violet colors. And even though you like this, your lightest color, you can't even see, right? It just looks white, but there is V000 on there. And then the roof would cast a shadow onto the rest of the house, so there's going to be dark shading under there. And then I didn't do it next to the windows. I probably should have in hindsight, but I did add a little bit of shading next to the door with my darkest color. And then I just accentuated those lines using the darkest color. And, it's fun. It's a fun little Halloween scene. And while I am not a big fan of fall, I am doing my best to embrace that. But I guess I'm not a big fan of fall because it's very muted colors, but I am a bigger fan of Halloween because it gives you, the bright oranges, greens, purples. So at least those are a little bit fun to play with. Speaking of greens, we're going to add in some lime green just because I really love the way that it pops with a bright purple. So just really simple shading on the door and the shutters. Nothing too crazy. It's not a large area. And then I forgot, when I had my grays out before to do the roof, I forgot to do my little headstone and the chimney. So we're going to go back and do those, starting with the lightest color. And then on the chimney, I'm only going in from the right-hand side because it's facing the moon, so it would be the lightest on the left. And then the same thing with the headstone, making sure I add my, shading more to the right-hand side. And then I decided I was going to go in and add a shadow. But here's the thing. That bat shadow is wrong. It's wrong. It would not cast a shadow right underneath itself up in the sky. So don't do that. Don't do what I did. And the same thing here. I'm drawing the one in under there, and then that's when I realized that's not how that shadow would look. Fortunately, I was able to just kind of go back in later and fix it, because how I'm doing this gravestone shadow is how it would look. It would be reflecting on in front of it, because the way that the moon's positioned behind it, it's like behind and overhead. So it would be casting the shadow right in front of it. So eventually I figure out that this is what I'm going to have to do, and I'm going to have to suck it up, Sally, and try to draw this shadow on the grass. And it ended up being fine. And I always start with the lightest one because I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea how this is going to look, and I want to make sure that I have a rough idea before I commit to something more permanently. So double checking myself there where my angle is going to be, and then going in with the C3. And even then, it's not super dark. It's not a super dark cast shadow. It's just a real general shape. And if I can do it, you can do it, believe you me. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in the same type of shadow to the house, which would be, to the right. For my sentiment, it's from the smaller set, the Graveyard Shift. It says Happy Haunting. And I decided I was going to white heat emboss that. Just for, something, it's a one layer, panel. So I wanted something just that was going to be a little more interesting. So I used my powder tool, stamped it in Versamark, and then went ahead and heat set it in white. It really disappeared into that background, so I chose to go in with a Copic multi-liner and just give it a little bit of a drop shadow so that it stuck out a little bit more. So I'm not part of the challenge team, but I will make mention that our current challenge is fall autumn theme over there. So if you would like to play along, then this would be a wonderful set to play along with. And that's pretty much going to be the card. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I will see you later on. Bye.